And now David will give us our scripture for today.
A reading from the letter of Paul to the Ephesians. My brethren, if anyone be found at fault, you who are spiritual, restore him in a spirit of meekness, and be careful lest you also be tempted. Bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of God. For if man thinks himself to be something, when he is nothing, he deceives himself. But let every man examine his own work, and then may he glory within himself alone and not among others. For every man shall bear his own burden. Let him who is taught the word become a partaker with him who teaches all good things. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that shall he also reap. He who sows things of the flesh, from the flesh shall reap corruption. He who sows things of the Spirit, from the Spirit shall reap life everlasting. Let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all men, especially to those who belong to the household of faith. Here endeth the reading. And now Reverend McCauley will give us our lesson sermon.
Well, today's lesson is on understanding and building your personal universe, and this is part 2 on karma. In today's scripture, we heard verses from the epistle of Paul the Apostle to the Galatians about how whatever a man sows, so shall he also reap. A couple of weeks ago, when I last spoke, I was talking about how we shape our personal universe. I indicated that when I was growing up in Washington, D.C., one of the admonishments that we received to teach us how to regulate our behavior was don't do anything that you don't want to read about on the front page of the Washington Post. And that for our purposes today, we might modify the expression to say, don't do anything you wouldn't want to see on 60 Minutes or on YouTube. I indicated that nowadays, cameras are everywhere. I mentioned the idea that French filmmaker Jean-Luc Godard stated in the 1960s when he said that one day cameras will be as plentiful as pencils. I said that if we have a tendency to behave badly, it's very likely our behavior will be caught and saved into the digital universe. And those pictures may easily find their way onto the internet for all to see, regardless of our intentions or objections. Today I thought it would be appropriate for us to take a look at karma. Karma has been a fact of life throughout the ages, whether people were aware of the law of karma or not. Today, our behavior may be caught by cameras or by various electronic means. For example, we learned recently that whatever we search for using Google, those search requests are recorded and saved forever. So if you're planning to commit a crime, or even researching how to do a crime, you research how to carry out that crime using Google's search engine, someone can go back through your searches and see what you researched and when. And while I'm not an attorney, it seems to me that such evidence would either suggest or prove someone was either considering, planning, or conspiring to commit a crime. I think one of the first things that we learn, perhaps in kindergarten or first grade, is to treat others as we'd like to be treated. I know that I had to learn this not only in church, in Sunday school, but also in regular school. They referred to this lesson in those days as the Golden Rule. I don't know if they still call it that, but I'm sure it's taught in some way, shape, or form. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, the words that I learned at a very early age. Karma is defined in the Wikipedia, comes from the Sanskrit karman, meaning act, action, performance. It's the concept of action or deed in Indian religions understood as that which causes the entire cycle of cause and effect. That is the cycle called samsara, originating in ancient India and treated in Hindu, Jain, and Sikh and Buddhist philosophies. The philosophical explanation of karma can differ slightly between traditions, but the general concept is basically the same. Through the law of karma, effects of all deeds actively create the past, present, and future experiences. thus making one responsible for one's own life, and the pain and joy it brings to him, her, and others. The results or fruits of actions are called karma phala. In religions that incorporate reincarnation, karma extends through one's present life and all past and future lives as well. The esoteric Christian tradition, Essenian, and later Rosicrucian schools teach it as the law of cause and consequence or effect. However, this Western esoteric tradition adds that the essence of the teachings of Christ is that the law of sin and death may be overcome by the love of God, which restore immortality. Karma means deed or act, and more broadly names the universal principle of cause and effect, action and reaction that governs all life. Karma is not fate, for humans act with free will, creating their own destiny. According to the Vedas, if we sow goodness, we will reap goodness. If we sow evil, we will reap evil. According to karma, performing positive actions results in a good condition in one's experience, whereas a negative action results in a bad effect. The effects may be seen immediately or delayed. Delay can be until later in the present life or in the next life. Thus, meritorious acts may mean rebirth into a higher station, such as superior human or godlike being, while evil acts result in rebirth as a human living in a less desirable circumstance or as a lower animal. The idea of karma was popularized in the Western world through the work of the Theosophical Society. Kardecist and Western New Age reinterpretations of karma frequently cast it as a sort of luck associated with virtue. If one does good or spiritually valuable acts, one deserves and can expect good luck. Conversely, if one does harmful things, one can expect bad luck or unfortunate happenings. Colloquially, this may be summed up as what goes around comes around. There's also the metaphysical idea that because karma is a force of nature and not a sentient creature capable of making value judgments, karma isn't about good and evil deeds, because applying those labels would be judgmental. But that it is about positive and negative energy, where negative energy can include things not seen as being bad, like sadness and fear. And positive energy can be caused by being creative and solving problems, as well as by exuding love and doing virtuous acts. So the idea of karma has been around for thousands of years. It's nothing new. As I said earlier, we all learned lessons to some extent in our childhood about karma, even if that name was not used at the time. We learn in school and in Sunday school that we should treat others as we want others to treat us. I recall at some point in my childhood that my mother told me that she volunteered at the USO because she thought that if I were ever in the military service away from home, she hoped that someone would treat me with kindness because she had treated others with kindness. This morning's lesson sermon began as a rant about all the messages I receive on my answering machine, about the people who constantly leave messages looking for people with whom I'm not acquainted. I receive calls on a regular basis from debt collectors who are searching for people with similar names, or perhaps when someone filled out a credit application, they wrote down my phone number that they found at random in the phone book. I effortlessly churned out about 10 pages about how irresponsible and irritating these people were, and I even planned to play some of the messages I've received just to mock them and make them wrong. But we also learned that two wrongs don't make it right. It's just as wrong for me to spend a Sunday sermon lambasting them for their irresponsible behavior as it is for them to harass innocent people. Sunday sermons are supposed to provide inspiration and to teach a lesson.